What is the psychology behind a slap that happens on live TV during the Oscars? This is Dr. Qasim Al-Mashat, registered psychologist and certified mindfulness teacher and trainer. Where do I begin with this one? This kind of viral scene that happened from the Oscars, and it was a slap. It's like on live TV. And what happened was Chris Rock, a comedian, was presenting at the 94th Academy Awards, and he was presenting Best Documentary. And he was doing his own little skit of comedy. One of the jokes he did was about Will Smith's partner, wife, Jada. And he turned to her and said, "Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it." And the reference he was making is G.I. Jane was a movie in 1997 with Demi Moore, and she was playing a role of a lieutenant, and she had buzz cut, shaved head. So there's a backstory to all of this, and the backstory, and I don't know all of it. To be frank, I don't keep up, nor that interested in the celebrity news or events, but this one I found interesting. So it turns out that Jada, she has alopecia, and it's an autoimmune disease where she lost her hair. So she has a buzz cut because of all the hair loss she had. And apparently she's been open about it and has been posting about it, just raising awareness. So I can only imagine how painful it must have been for her, to be made fun of in this way. So it just it was painful to hear him making a joke like that. Now, putting that aside for a moment, what happens next is Will Smith, who's also an actor, and he was nominated that night, and he ended up winning an Academy after the slap. So what happened is he got up, walked towards a stage, went up a couple steps, got to Chris Rock, and Chris Rock was kind of, all he said is like, "Uh-oh." And what ended up happening is Will Smith walks towards him on live TV in the Oscars, slaps him, and then comes back, goes back to his seat, which is the front row, one of the front rows, and then he yells, and that was also surprising and actually also disturbing to see him in so much pain. Will Smith, he was just kind of mouthing with this deep anger, "Get my wife's name out of your effing mouth." And he repeated it a couple times, loud with anger. Whew. So how do we process that? How do we make sense of that? So many different angles. So I wanted to share my opinions, and these are just opinions, because obviously I don't know, I haven't met any of them, so I can't speak about them, and I can't do just an assessment or a diagnosis on someone I've never met. So, okay, if we put on the lens, if Will Smith was a client, and he's an actor, and he comes to see me right after that event, what would be going through my mind is, putting aside the strong impact that I had of watching him slap someone on live TV, which is violence after all. So even if we look at Chris Rock's comment as a form of making, not just making fun, but maybe even bullying, and that's also a really big topic and sensitive topic that really hurts a lot of people. It's very common, bullying and the impact it has. So if we consider that that was kind of verbal bullying, what Chris Rock said, kind of making fun of, but then the slap is also bullying and violence. So neither of it was, in my eyes, and again, this is just opinion, was okay. like making fun of Jada and if someone has an autoimmune disease is not okay. And slapping someone is not okay. But if Will Smith was a client and he came right to me after the Oscars, the first thing is just really hearing him out, because I can imagine his world is turned upside down. This is, besides, the clip has gone globally viral, him slapping someone on live TV. I can imagine the shame, putting aside right, wrong that he slapped someone, just what he's going through, the repercussions of the slap. What came out was he's banned from the academy for 10 years. That's what's the latest that I heard, so I don't know, it may change. So 10 years he can't be at the academy. So that's a consequence, right? And when there's an act of violence, there's going to be a consequence. So what's really, if he came to see me, just help him first listen and help him process what is the most painful aspect for him. What comes to mind as well, for someone to be that level of anger, that means there's a lot of pain. Because if you're thinking anger is more of a surface emotion on the ocean, and deep inside the ocean is a lot of other emotions. So hurt. So there's a lot of hurt, and turns out in terms of backstory, there's a lot of I don't know the details, but things about him and Jada being in an open relationship. So there's a lot of hurt and infidelity, and I don't know the whole story there. So helping him make sense of what happened, but also getting to begin to work with triggers, because that's a big trigger. And we all have triggers. Nobody doesn't have triggers. The question is, how charged is that trigger? How strong is that trigger? So for him, it got pushed to a level where it seems to have affected his judgment. And it seems to have really affected his judgment, and he couldn't see anymore that it is not okay to walk on stage and slap someone. It's just not okay. So I'd be curious about that. I'd be curious about whatever bullying he experienced, Chris Rock, Will Smith, whatever bullying he's experienced over his lifetime, where that's it. Like that was the final straw. Boom, done. So I'd be curious about that. What are the triggers? How can we work with these previous triggers, make sense of it? And there's many modalities in therapy we can do to work with that. So that's kind of on a surface level of how it worked with him, and on a surface level, just to because many of you have been asking me, so what? How do you make sense of it? And in terms of Chris Rock, if he came to see me after the Oscars as a client, same thing. Wow. I would first thing is just listen to, help him process what's coming up for him from all of this, because putting aside right or wrong about the joke he made of Jada, he was on the receiving end of violence. So he was on the receiving end of violence, and what else got triggered for him? Because there's apparently a backstory that he was bullied growing up. So, I mean, that's I wonder what that now triggered, like the aftermath of him being on the receiving end of violence. A slap is violence. Is what is that bringing up for him? So helping him make sense of that. I would be also really curious how he was able to restrain himself. I mean, that was actually amazing. that he restrained himself. When he got slapped, he didn't punch back. He didn't slap Will Smith back. He just took the slap and then said a couple of things like, oh wow. He said something like, oh wow, I get slapped by Will Smith, and this is one of the great moments of... He just took it lightly, went on and presented the Oscar for Best Documentary. So I'd be curious how is he able to do that? Because that's something that's not easy to do. So there's a lot to digest, and these are just my initial thoughts and making sense and knowing, both of them are hurting. So both Chris Rock and Will Smith, they're both hurting. And putting aside right, wrong, should have happened, should have not happened, either of them, if they would come to see me, just really support them in making sense, working with what trigger caused the slap, and also what's been coming up since then, and really healing, making sense of, and moving forward, because that's a lot that has happened. Now, also the other thing I would have been really curious about as a mindfulness teacher, and I'd be very curious about awareness. So on both ends, Chris Rock and Will Smith. So if it's Will Smith, I would be asking him, like, just before you got up, what were you aware of in your body? Because our body is like a barometer, and was it just heart pounding? Was it like starting to sweat? Was it breathing changes? Something shifted in him. Something shifted, because moments before he got up, he was laughing at the jokes. And then I think he turned to Jada, and she looked really upset. So that kind of pushed him. And in that moment, like, it happened quick. I'd be curious, how did he notice anything in his body? Because that is information. Our body is information. It says, oh, I'm really angry. I'm about want to really slap someone. And could he notice any thoughts he had or any emotions? This is the lens that really mindfulness really makes such a powerful impact, is getting to know, what am I thinking, what am I feeling, what's my body saying, getting to know all of that. So I would have been really curious to ask him all of that. Because after all, I mean, if you think of it, again, putting aside right, wrong, and all of that, but has anyone not felt like sometime in their life this getting really upset at someone, and they're like, I can't believe they just did this or said this, I want to slap this person, right? So, I mean, we've all had that. It doesn't mean, if we meditate or do, years of self-work, we'll never feel any anger internally. Of course we will. The difference is knowing to act or not to act. So it's not about eliminating, never feeling upset, but it's like when upsetness arises, whoa, what to do with it? It's when we take destructive action, like slapping someone or throwing a chair somewhere or doing anything, that's destructive. But feeling it as a human being, that's normal. It's like, oh, I just had this thought of wanting to do this. Oh, I just want, okay, breathe. Yeah, that's what's here. But we don't let it cross the line of action. That's, I think, what was so startling about this Will Smith event, is he took the action, the negative action of a slap, even though, I'm willing to bet that most people at one point in their life felt like, oh, I just want to to this person or whatever, right? Whether it's yell or slap or whatever, which doesn't make it okay. But now it's knowing not to take these actions. So these are some of my thoughts, and I'm still kind of digesting on it. And the last thing I want to say is, I found it so interesting how interesting this seems. Like this created such an incredible buzz, and even for me, I was in disbelief, and I was looking. I'm like, what? I was just looking like, is this really what happened? I missed it live, but I couldn't help myself but to look. What is this? I can't believe what just happened. So if you ended up watching it live and it impacted you, that is also normal. It may bring up emotions around violence, or bring up emotions about bullying. So just being really gentle and caring to yourself, taking care of you. Talking to a friend if you need to talk to a friend, if you're seeing a counselor or someone to speak about, because sometimes even witnessing something can bring up stuff for all of us, and that is normal too. So these are just some of my thoughts, and just wanted to share those. I wanted to thank you for listening, and things come up in life that sometimes throws us off, and then we all try to make sense of it. So this is me making sense of what happened, sharing just some of my opinions. So thank you for listening. Look forward to sharing more videos with you. If you found this clip useful, feel free to like, and if you haven't, subscribe and like and share. I look forward to also maybe seeing you at future events that I hold. There's a lot of mindfulness events happening. Thank you for watching. May your moments be filled with ease, and may you be present with as many of them. Thank you.